to the March 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Stockbridge Board of Selectmen. Let us first stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. First, we have a special permit application for 104 Interlaken. And let's see, the name of the, I am going to open the hearing. I move that we open the hearing to consider the application for special permit public hearing for Jacob and Katie Silverman, located at 104 Interlaken Road. Waive the reading of the notice and incorporate the notice into the minutes of the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, roll call. Aye, Patrick.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Jamie.
All right, procedures. The following procedures will be followed. Testimony will be limited to the issues directly related to the subject matter. Only one person will be permitted at a time. All discussions will go through the chair. I am not allowed to ask you to act civilly because the Supreme Court has ruled against it. However, I encourage it, strongly encourage it. Arguments between the parties will not be permitted. So, hi, how are you? Do you want to proceed with your presentation?
Certainly. I'm Shannon Boomsma from White Engineering.
Hello.
This is 104 Interlaken Road. It's on the west side of Stockbridge Bowl. Is everyone familiar with where this property is? Okay. I know, Jamie, yours is.
Yes.
So there's an existing house here. We have an intermittent stream coming down, and we have the lake here. So this existing house is going to get some renovations, and we are proposing 3 additions to the house. A 208 square foot addition on the north side and a 54 square foot outdoor kitchen on the south side with a pervious patio, stone laid in sand, and another walkway to connect to the existing patios that are out there. And 120 square foot extension of the front porch. And then we have a standalone 1-car garage and a carport. All of these additions and the garage and carport are going to have their roof runoff treated, either in stone at the drip line, the gravel driveway, or a trench drain going to a rain garden. We have erosion controls. Given the size of this lot, it's 4.92 acres with a little over 300 linear feet of shoreline. This just over 1,000 square feet of additional structure on this property seems to be keeping with the neighborhood and the nature of the property.
Good. Board, does the board have any questions?
And will you do sufficient plantings?
We met with the planning board on Tuesday night, and with their review of the application, we agreed to meet their standards, which is 35 feet of undisturbed buffer along the shoreline with the exception of the access to the dock, and 75% natural vegetation within the LPOD area. So within 150 feet of the lake, we are going to be replanting areas that are now lawn to achieve that 75%.
All right, thank you.
If you're interested, I can show you where those areas are.
No, but I do want to thank you for working with the planning board and David Cameron. I attended that meeting. It was fantastic. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? No.
It's pretty simple.
Public comment. Do we have anyone who wants to speak in favor or opposition? Got a big audience tonight. Come on. No? All right. Well, I move that we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing. Actually, before we, that's all right.
Yeah, you might want to do that.
What?
Did you have a question about the dock or?
I don't have a question. The dock, I talked to Gary Kleinerman about the floating pad, which is not a dock, it turns out. And there's really just 2 issues. One, obviously, it has to be pulled in at the end of each season. And 2, we do harvest there, so he can require you to move it temporarily if it gets involved in harvesting. But other than that, I don't have a problem with it because he doesn't have a problem with it.
Of course, and planning board didn't have a problem with that. It's going to get a state license.
Yeah.
And go through conservation commission as well next year.
And so I move that we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing and move to deliberation by the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, Patrick.
Hi, Chuck.
Aye, Jamie.
All right, deliberation. Anyone got a problem? All right, that was so easy. I make a motion that we approve the special permit.
Second.
And I, oh,
All those in favor?
Hi, John.
sorry, aye, Jamie.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
okay.
So easy.
That was a good one. All right, on to the next one. We have a seasonal alcohol license renewal for the trustees of reservations Namkeg. Make a motion, anyone?
What do you got? More?
I know, I want to do them one at a
Put them
time.
together or not?
I just want to do them one at a time, actually.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we grant the license.
Okay. Second. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
right. Boston Symphony Orchestra, I'm going to recuse myself from that one, so you
Okay,
guys can
that's
take
fine.
care of it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we grant the license.
And I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And I have a question on the Berkshire Theater Festival main stage. There's a sign up that says it's closed until 2028.
So is it the red
They-
barn or is it the red barn with a little theater up the hill?
But they.
I don't know. They just bring it up.
They may still set the tent up.
Which one's the main stage? Do we have the?
I thought the main stage was the one here on Route 102.
Then we just put
Because
that,
that
'cause that's what they do every year, so that might be just on there.
Let me make sure, because it's,
There's a sign literally in the building that says closed till
right,
2028.
but you have the other building
But
with
then
the
there's the
unicorn
building on
stage.
the.
But that's not the main stage.
7,
That's
but
not the
a
main
little-
stage?
No. But I mean, I've got no problem with it generally. I just want to make sure that,
We have
like,
the
you know, we know.
reports.
Well, they may still put the tent up in the
Yeah.
back there, and that's why they call them at the main stage. They put a big tent up and they have their functions.
In the yard.
Yeah, in the back.
So it says 30 minutes prior to each performance intermission in the small concession stand outside the main stage
That's what-
playhouse.
Okay.
That's where we're
Good.
building.
So motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All righty, that was easy. Then a one-day alcohol license for Berkshire Botanical Garden. I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Anybody in the public want to comment on any of these? Sorry, I should have asked. Before we vote? No? Good? All those in favor? Aye, Patrick.
Aye.
Jamie.
All right. Take action on the minutes. Did anybody have any changes on minutes from February 9, 23rd, or March 9th?
No.
No.
All right. Motion to approve the minutes. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Budget. Now we get to the fun part. All right. Now listen, we're gonna limit this to 50 minutes because we've got the Beechwood Lenstock meeting at 7:30 that we have to play Grand Poobah for. So I think we can get through the budget and make a recommendation to the planning board, which is meeting next Thursday. But if we can't, I think because the planning board wants us to,
Finance.
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 I mean,
You don't
the
need to
finance
explain
board.
it.
Yeah, I meant the finance
What's
board.
the planning board gonna do?
I get up early, sorry. The finance committee wants us to refer and approve budget. And so I'm hoping we can get through the budget today. And if we can't, we should talk about what we want to do because they're planning on meeting in a week. Okay, so let's get started. Michael, can you bring up the current budget worksheet?
Yep.
Okay. Don't need Shannon's plan. So the biggest change in the budget since we talked about this last time, let's actually start with, before we go there, let's start with the free cash page.
Oh, all right.
Do we have a printout or just the
Just
screenshot?
that.
And can you zoom a little bit so people can read it?
Yep. But you want me to go to the capital budget?
Yeah. And I can just walk you through. The issue is really simple. Are we going to recommend the intersection change at town meeting this year? And if so, I'd like to suggest that we use free cash to do it.
The what?
The inner,
The intersection changes that we had a meeting on in October, November, Main Street intersection, Red Line intersection. Are we putting that on this warrant?
I would prefer to have that in a special town meeting coming up after. That's gonna be a big one. I think that should be a zone meeting.
And we're going to have a special town meeting in the fall already for the school merger.
we are.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I think
In all likelihood,
Do you
it's
think
not,
we should put it
it's
together
highly
with
likely.
that?
I think we should just put it on the town meeting and let people talk about it. It gets the biggest attendance compared to the special ones. But it's up to you. I mean, I'm ambivalent, but we said we were gonna, it's kind of the getting things done mantra.
Yeah, but this,
I mean, we were gonna do it this fall and we didn't do it.
We already agreed on it in the autumn.
Yeah.
I think we should go ahead.
Michael, what do you think?
What I remember is you guys wanted to get the crosswalks done and then see how that,
But we didn't get any bids on that.
didn't get any bids.
And I'm wondering if we combine them together, we can get the
Well,
bids we need.
that's the sidewalk's gonna be done with the paving.
Right.
So they're gonna be done
With chapter 90 money?
in chapter.
No, I mean, combine them into one bid so that it's a bigger project and we get more bidders.
Right. I was
Would we
gonna
get a-
combine it with the blacktopping project, but if you, I mean, it's up to you guys if you want to put the.
I'm just asking. I'm not, I don't have a strong opinion.
Keep that as, I prefer to keep that as is, put the sidewalks in with the blacktop bits. Get that done, that'll be done this.
But that's a
That's
bidding.
how people react to that issue
So if
before
they're
going to the
in,
next.
that's
Yeah.
taken care of already, it's done.
All right.
So the intersection, do you want to, we can do a special town meeting over the summer, then we can get second homeowners to participate. I don't have any problem with that, but I think we should
it's gonna
decide
be a-
one way or
It's
another.
gonna be a long debate on that, a very long debate, I believe.
You do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
How long's long?
I mean, it could go hours.
Oh,
It really could.
and town meeting is long.
Yeah. So you want to punt on it and
I
do it
would-
over the summer?
for right now, I'll
Or in
punt
the
it
fall?
till,
Okay, so we're not doing, so you can take that one down. And next, the next one I want to talk about is the most significant change that we made. Michael and I have been working on the budget since the last meeting we discussed. And the most significant change to the budget is actually pulling the funds from the dedicated stabilization fund for paying off the town hall and other notes that we voted at town meeting last year. The initial budget we looked at did not include that. What is it, 345,000?
Yeah, it was 345,000 for the principal, 25,000 for interest, 60,000 on the principal for the water plant, and 4,200 on the interest for the water plant.
What's the total on that?
The total on it is
and that would
434,605.
pay off what again?
And what do you want to do?
So originally we had set the money aside in case over the next 3 years that the school came on, that we'd be able to pay it off. But right now it looks like most of the school debt probably won't hit until 26, 27. So we might we should just pay it off now and reduce the budget now and then deal with the school when that happens.
But I want to emphasize, we already put the money aside to pay it off.
Yeah.
I think that's a good move.
I do too.
Yeah.
So it will be this fiscal year or the next?
Yeah, no, we'd be paying off the loan. I had 3
Right.
more payments left, so.
Oh.
about
So that's gonna reduce-
1.2 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're gonna pay it off now, so that we have it right off the
And
book.
that change right there
He's
reduces,
saving, like.
yeah, it reduces the tax rate 3 or 4%. So it's a really good thing because we've already dedicated the money in stabilization last year. And now we're just basically pulling it out to pay it off as we suggested. Okay. Can you go to the revenue page?
Yep.
So so the revenue doesn't get set until we do the tax classification hearing, in the run up to the tax classification hearing. This board doesn't actually set the revenue, but I want to just point out a couple of things on the revenues. The first is that while the budget has, maybe zoom in a little bit, while the budget has an interest based on last year, the town has purchased some CDs that 6 months of the 9 months will show up in the next fiscal year. And that's going to result in at least $90,000 in revenue. And the plug number based on last year's budget is 20,000, but that'll likely have a positive impact on the revenues of about 70,000. That won't affect any of the budget discussions that we're talking about now, but it is something that we'll see a benefit on. The other thing I would just point out is that when you look at the year over year of occupancy and meals tax are actually flat. Since COVID, we haven't seen an uptick over the last year in people going out to dinner. On the other hand, people are flocking back and occupancy tax is actually way up. It's up about, just in one quarter, it was up from 127 to 182 from, this current quarter from this year to last year. So I think we can anticipate, though we're not going to change the budget, we can anticipate actually a positive impact on lowering the tax rate, which I think is great. So I just want to kind of point out those things on the revenue side. I think that the rest of it is, there's a number of relatively small line item things that we've talked about. I don't think we need to go through them all. The big thing I wanted to talk about tonight has to do with OPEB. And let me just frame this by saying, just for people out there who may not know, other post-employment benefits are basically healthcare, dental expenses for retirees. So, when someone works for the town, they get benefits after they leave. If they worked here, what is it, 10 years?
Minimum of 10.
Yeah, minimum of 10 years. And so, we've been paying in. The town did a great job at funding OPEB. In fact, last year we were funded beyond 100%, and we lost a little bit in the market last year. It's funded at about 96%. Now, we can do one of three things with OPEB. The accountants, we have this nice 59-page report from the accountants that talks about how we're nearly fully funded. And so when you're fully funded, you actually can start to pay the expenses, which right now we pay from the general budget. All right. So to put it in perspective, it's $139,000. So it's a reasonably large line item on the budget. Now we can do one of three things. We can continue to let the interest accrue and other dividends that this makes. And that's probably the most conservative thing to do. The accountants say that we'll be overfunded if we don't put any more money in, that we'll be overfunded on OPEB, not overfunded, we'll be above 100% funding in fiscal year 27. Right now we're at 96 or something like that. So we're really close now. Now, the second thing we could do is we could just say, the accounts are projected by 2052, 30 years out, that will be 1.4 million overfunded. So in other words, basically with what they're projecting for the interest rate, we'll have way more than we need then. So the other end of the spectrum is we could actually start to take that out of the budget and fund it with the money that the taxpayers put into OPEB. And the thing I like about that is that with a lot of folks in their 70s and 80s and 90s, I think these people already paid nearly 100% for OPEB, and giving them a break on their taxes by funding it through the trust fund rather than through the general budget, I think is reasonable for people who their whole life paid their taxes and in this case put money into the OPEB account to nearly fully fund it. Or we could come up with a hybrid that says we want to maybe have a target of maybe 90 or 95%, and we'll basically come up with a recommendation to town meeting each year that says maybe we'll take some of it out, but not all of it out. And I think that it makes sense for Michael to come up with three recommendations for the select board and finance committee based on these three scenarios: do nothing, fund the whole thing, or come up with some kind of hybrid that takes into account the fact that, we have about 3.7 million in there now, which means folks, basically it's almost 45% of a tax bill, the two tax bills each year for every taxpayer has gone into this thing. They've already paid for OPEB. So whether or not we want to do a hybrid, we want to fund it, or we want to leave it alone is, I think, a question that we should come up with a policy on. And we should absolutely involve the finance committee in discussing and coming up with that policy.
And have we already factored in people that would retire in the next?
Yeah.
That's what they do as part of the actuarial report, is they
Okay.
look at your current workforce, when they'll
Okay.
retire, what your potential is. But going out to 52 is 29 years ahead, which is, if you take 29 into that 1 point something, that's only 48,000 a year. And as we talked about, once you take it out in earlier years, it's not going to compound, so it has a big impact. But the actuarial has said that we can look at that once we're 100% funded of where we begin to pull back.
We can look at it whenever we want, but the other point I will make is that even with this budget, where we had 1.5 million last year in free cash, and Michael's done a great job, the finance committee, the select board, we've all done a great job at lowering free cash, but we're still gonna, in all likelihood from this budget, throw up $400,000 to $500,000 in free cash this year. And there's absolutely no reason why, if we start to get below whatever the target rate is, like maybe it's 90%, we can't use free cash to augment that budget later. We also can use free cash to keep it at 90 or 95 or 100%, while at the same token starting to fund OPEB from the OPEB trust. We can do all of that, but I think we need to come up with a policy because at some point we're going to be beyond 100% funded, and we're pretty close to 100% funded now. And I think this is something that we need to really decide and have a discussion around.
Okay. I mean, a couple of those could be looking at when we hit a certain percentage, say like 110%, then you always want to be a little above that 100, but
I think it.
you could look at, there's a couple different ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
It is sort of a reverse way of applying free cash as a pay down to lower
It
the
is.
tax rate.
It certainly is.
Which is not something, yeah.
But it's also something that most cities and towns have funded at close to 0%. And Stockbridge is funded at 96%. And this is the second oldest, according to some folk, I think Steve told me, it's the second oldest municipality in the Commonwealth. And our taxpayers paid in to close to 100%. And I think they did that with the expectation that we would then fund this at some point. And if we're going to wait till we're fully funded, we're going to wait 5 more years. And I think it's a reasonable question, since we're so close, that we should at least discuss it. Because I want to keep the tax rate as low as possible if it improves the ability for people to afford their homes.
But this does cripple towns if they don't have enough money.
That's right. And most people don't have anything in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we should go with a hybrid. I mean, eventually.
Well, I think this is not really
Yeah.
looked at, but this is out of my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want the input of the finance committee,
Good.
you know, and
All right.
That's a
I'm not pointing
Yeah,
out.
that's
I'm
good.
just-
Well, that's what I want to come up with. I want to come up with 3
We don't have to
proposals.
decide tonight.
No, we're absolutely not deciding tonight.
No, this is a very
But I wanted to
complicated.
bring it up because I think it's something that is a reasonable conversation, especially given, the fact that folks have been paying taxes all their lives here, or were just recently because they
But
just
isn't
moved here.
this one of the bigger expenses each town comes across? Or no?
No, see, that's the thing. It's not.
Okay.
The OPEB trust is to protect it. OPEB originally started to protect other posts when a business went basically out of business.
Okay,
And it also is something that once a business is fully funded, it could use the interest in that to pay down their other post-employment benefits.
okay.
Once again, it goes back to a little bit of a question of,
But we worked,
you worked
this
hard
town
to
worked
get
very
this.
hard to get to this.
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And the recommendation of the state, of MMA and the rest, is to fully fund an OPEB trust.
Right.
The problem is, the communities that really need to have an OPEB trust are the ones that aren't funded. And,
Well, I go back to the taxpayers. I want to basically,
Very fortunate that we had a finance committee and,
we're going to do that. The whole idea
We got this.
is to come up with several options. We'll talk about it at the finance committee, and then we'll talk about it together and decide. So I think that covers that one. Then beyond that, let's just, I just want to kind of go through a couple of other just highlight areas, and then we can decide if we're ready to let Michael come up with a final budget to, with this question open, to present to the finance committee next Thursday. I wanted to point out that I have asked Michael to increase the Cultural Council programming budget by $5,000. We've asked the Cultural Council last year, we gave them an extra 5 last year, specifically for Stockbridge-based events. And I think that with our elderly folks having time and wanting to have community, that going from 5,000 to 10,000 is reasonable. But because I asked him to line item that one, I wanted you guys to review it and, see if you had any problem with it.
it was already built into the budget.
It's already in the budget, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had the 5,000 built in. I did increase it to 10, but
And it's a minor thing, but we, based on past spending, we did reduce the Glendale solar maintenance from 15,000 to 5,000, just because we weren't spending nearly that. what the budget line item was.
The highway took over cutting outside the fence.
Oh,
We used to sub it out before.
Let's see. What else we got? We are nearly done. Those are the big things. I did want to talk about the finance, there's concerns around what the inflation rate is and whether or not the 2.5% budgeted increase for town hall salaries, this is non-highway, non-union salaries, is adequate. And I thought that personally, my feeling is we should be cognizant of the fact that people, some types of expenses have gone up, like food and gas, versus what they were a year or two ago. But at the same token, if we increase the baseline to 4 or 5%, I think that is a new baseline that goes forever into the future. And beyond that, it also will potentially impact contract negotiations with the unions next year. So I would like to recommend that we leave the raise at 2.5%, but repeat the use of ARPA to give people like what I would call an inflationary bonus, similar to what we did at the first meeting that we had together, which I think was 1,000 for full-time employees and 500 for part-time employees. Is that what we did?
Yeah.
And that would give people a little bit of extra money as a one-time payment to offset those higher inflationary expenses while not necessarily putting the huge pressure on the budget that if between our union and non-union folks start significantly seeing this, an increase this year is then built into every future year. And when you compound it over 20 or 30 years, it actually makes a big giant difference, millions of dollars. So I'd like.
Legally do that with that money?
Yes.
It's now local receipts now, so.
Yeah, I just,
And it came up in the finance committee meeting, and I think it's a good idea
would it just
to have a
to,
bonus, because that way we can
well,
wait
if we're gonna
to.
do it as a bonus, should we do it as a performance bonus? So it's not just across the board, it's
Call whatever
how
we
you
want.
perform your business. So one might get more, one might get less. Or you think that would cause issues?
I think that would,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I was just asking because,
Really
you know,
big.
I know, but it also gets big when, you know, somebody gets 1,000 and somebody else gets 1,000 and they don't do the work and I do the work and then you
I
get
think
that.
overall, we've got a pretty solid,
We got a great group. I'm not saying we got
Really
an excellent group of employees here and that's why the town's where it's at, but
Yeah.
okay, I'm 100% behind that.
So how about we have a motion then to use ARPA to fund at the end of this calendar year, payment at the same amount that we funded, the first meeting we had in.
what are you doing with the first? So the only difference you did last time was you also had the first responders.
Yeah, I want to include them.
Those were 2,500.
No,
What?
it's
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think if they're part-time, they get 500 and if they're full-time, they get 1,000.
Remember specifically, we
Yeah.
gave that for their work
Yeah,
directly.
yeah. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yes.
So no, my proposal is that we do 1,000. We did 1,000 for like the full-time, the regular
For
full-time.
everybody
In
else, you did
town hall.
1,000 for the full-timers, 500 for the part-timers, and 2,500 for first responders.
So I just want to bring them down to 500.
All right.
So it's basically 1,500.
All right, so 1,000 for full-timers, 500.
And I'm making that motion.
All right.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So and the recommendation to the finance committee then is that because we just funded that with ARPA, that we leave the raises at 2.5%. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, because we have to wait for the interest rate to see what happens.
What?
To see what happens with the cost of living, interest rate.
Yeah.
Might
I
come.
mean, look, it may not, it's
Oh, you're dreaming.
So, so based on the adjustments,
I want to move to a part of the country you live in.
based on the adjustments that we made right now, we're projecting that the budget will go up $26,000.
We're not done yet. We're almost there, but we're not done yet. All right, so the next line item that I wanted to talk about was the litigation budget. We had 85,000 budget for litigation during the herbicide stuff. We spent a fair amount. We spent 62,000, 60,000, and 49,000 going back several years. This year so far, we've only spent $2,600. And we have 65,000 in the budget. This is another place. And I'll tell you this.
Well, you're right.
All right, hold on. All right, come on, pipe down.
Sorry, but-
All right, look at, I think that, I think that part of the reason for that is that, and I'll give Michael a compliment here, as we manage things better, or just manage things, there's less opportunity for litigation.
Yes.
But if we're so far over what our projected litigation costs are for this year, then I think we could bring that down to 25 or 50,000 from the 65,000 in the budget. And still, if we had a problem, we could fund it with the reserve
It
fund.
was always usually 50. I mean, we
Well,
caught
last-
it fast.
Going back to
Last 5 years has been more than
It was
that.
100,000, it was 98,000 appropriated, it was 100,000 appropriated, it was 85,000. In 2022, we spent 49,000, but 12,000 of that was tax title, which we now have a tax title line in the treasurer's office. So if we go back to 2022, when we spent 49, so I lowered it from 100 to 85, and this year I was gonna go down to 65, but then Patrick asked me what we spent so far, and I went in and went, oh yeah, we've only spent 2,600 to date.
Yeah, but
So,
it's still early.
yeah,
We can backstop it. We're still going to have ARPA. We're still going to have the reserve fund.
Yeah.
So we can backstop it with
use
those. if we
ARPA
need.
for
Yeah,
legal.
we can. We use it for any government.
Really?
expense.
any legal
How
purpose.
much, are we up 26,000, you said?
2,600.
600,
No, I mean, the budget's up, you said 26,000.
yeah, we could take this down to
Okay, let's
40.
We could basically have
Let's
a,
take that 26 of it out of there and
Well,
make it even.
if we just round it to 40,000, if we lower that to 40,000, the budget is increasing by $1,200.
how about we budget it at 30,000 and we have ARPA as the backstop and we have the reserve fund as the backstop and we actually are lowering the budget.
Because if we
Well,
end
how
up with
much-
a major lawsuit, we're going to take that money anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
I favor that.
Yeah, this is not litigation. We have a separate line for legal count.
Yeah, this is litigation.
Litigation.
So I'm making a motion that we lower that to 30,000.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And that works out that increase.
And that now gives us a lower budget next year than we had this year.
$1,000.
Yep. All right.
I contributed that.
Yeah, we all do. All right, but now this one's gonna possibly go up a little bit.
Then we'll be over the budget. and I'll get yelled at.
So we may have to lower another 5 because, Michael, do you want to talk to the conservation agent / LPOD issue?
Yeah, actually, after we talked about it, I think we can just leave that at 20.
Okay.
And then use the money that we already appropriated through the planning board to cover the LPOD part.
So-
So I think we have plenty of money there.
To frame this for folks, we now have a conservation agent for the first time ever, a guy named David Cameron, and we're using him in the town for 2 different things. The planning board is using him to review Lake and Pond Overlay District applications, and the Conservation Commission is using him to review Wetlands Protection Act issues. He was the former head of the DEP Wetlands Division for Western Massachusetts. And so next year, my guess is once we run out of the current appropriation on the planning board, that number's going to have to go up, but it doesn't have to go up in this next fiscal year. We can wait a year. So we'll leave that one alone. All right. I like the idea of the budget going down. Let's see. Do we have anything else? Nope. Nothing there. Michael, you're going to look at, nope, we knew what that was. The budget for purchased equipment at the police force has gone up because we have to replace the tasers. Go figure.
Can't we just use batteries?
What's that?
Change the batteries
They glue them in now. It's like a phone.
or plug it into the circuit later, have it cord. Go so far.
So absent,
Save money.
And this, I will point out that this does include, because we haven't talked about it, this does include bringing
colorful.
on somebody within the full-time at the fire department.
yeah.
I have in this budget right now, the recommendation from the chief to bring on another full-time employee.
Yeah.
That's in this budget already.
Already, it's
Yes.
still down.
And it's increasing the stipend from $15 per point to 18.4.
When do you think you're going to have the recommendation?
Oh, go ahead.
No, when do you think you're going to have the recommendation on the shared services, the intermunicipal agreement?
Not till, it's gonna, the first meetings are gonna start in April, so we're at least 6 months.
I'm asking, that's okay. I'm not suggesting it's right away. I'm just saying that I think that if we're 6 months to a year out on that, we should sort of discuss at least whether or not we want to fill this position before you guys have a recommendation that we take on that, but
It will take at least, even if we decide to go that route, it'll take a couple of years. It's going to take a couple of years to put everything together.
Right.
We're 2 to 3 years out from anything happening, more
And
likely
like
up
you're
to
talking,
5.
like with hiring this person, it will be in the contract and stuff that this is in the works.
I get it. But I mean, look at,
But I think we really need, because we have no response during the day. So we really need.
right, but we do have mutual aid. And so this would obviously help us with structured fires that happen during the day significantly. But then again, we've got career guys 3 miles down the road who, and also in Lennox, who could conceivably provide coverage. And what's the all-in cost of that employee? About 100?
So the salary itself is about 54,000, and then you have to add about at least another 40,000. So you're.
Yeah, 95.
Cost, so you're talking 90 to 95,000.
So, look at Chuck, I'll defer to you on this one, but I think we should, it's 94th grand, it's like, I don't want to recruit somebody if the person doesn't have a job in a year, if they leave another job, it's not a great thing for the person. It's not a great thing for the town if we're kind of adding almost a temporary employee. It may even be hard to fill because of that,
It could be difficult. It could be difficult to fill. But I think that we would just have to be upfront and just, whether we put in the budget and attempt to fill it, the idea would be to have a contracted employee that would run out. I do know that, one of the positives, while we can't guarantee anything, is that if part of this goes through and it is an expansion of ambulance services, they'll be looking for an EMT firefighter. And that's what we'd be looking for too. We're not just looking for a firefighter, we're looking for a firefighter EMT, similar to the level of the chief.
Okay. So I think though the question on OPEB and the question on firefighter, I think we should at least let the finance committee weigh in before we make a final decision.
Yep.
And, but I think that that's good. And I think that we've got I think that also, if you look at the fire budget, there's a lot of round numbers.
Yep.
And so we're going to basically just, Michael's going to talk with Vinny and just make sure that it's not just $2,000 on every line item higher, that there's actually some justification for what the budget is. But there may well be. I'm not saying there's not, but I do want to know what it is. So I think that other than that, that's pretty much all I got. So if you guys are comfortable with it, then I think we should recommend this budget to the finance committee with those 2 open questions that we want to discuss further, OPEB and whether to add the firefighter as part of this budget.
Okay, then whatever questions they got coming back to us.
And Michael, I'd certainly okay with me if it's okay with them that as we do minor refinements, some numbers come in or whatever, I think I'm completely fine with you, making minor modifications to the budget as needed based on just refining the numbers one way or another. As long as you keep it level, that's my big goal. And so do we want a motion on recommending this with those conditions?
I made all those changes and
Yeah.
I mean, there's no motions until we finalize the budget, which right now, I would say
The
that
finance committee has asked us to refer a budget to them.
Right.
I think we should go through the formality of referring a budget to them.
the draft, it's still a
Draft budget.
current
Draft.
draft.
All right. So I make a motion, we will refer to this draft budget with the open items of OPEB and firefighters, allowing Michael to make minor changes as necessary based on new information over the next week. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye, Patrick.
Same.
All right. Good. All right. So next we have on the agenda, we're doing good. We still have 20 minutes before Beechwood. Short-term rental management tools discussion. All right. So we came up with a bylaw for short-term rentals that involved things like people are required to register. There's about 100, and as of February, because we got a demo, there's about 135 short-term rentals that were active at that time. And we've had 12 people who registered. No, that's not the worst thing. They may not have known it. They may have just skipped it. More concern to me is only 90 of those or so are on the state website as having registered to pay their taxes. Now, we can't get the information of who those 90 are. They don't tell us. They only give us a list of what streets they're on. They don't give us the addresses because it's a taxpayer privacy issue, because the whole short-term rental law that former Governor Baker passed was around like kind of individual taxpayers, and they saw it as a privacy issue, whatever. What I think is that there's tools out there. One is from GoGov, and there's a tool from a company called Granicus that we actually got a demo of. And these tools allow us to basically automate the complaint process, automate sending letters out, reminding people to register, sending letters out, reminding them that they have to sign up with the Mass DOR to pay their taxes. It gives us the ability to actually even run a list of people if they've got open issues and for fines. So for example, let's say, the house has got 3 bedrooms and it's on septic, or it's on town sewer, either one. Our bylaw says that they can only rent for up to 7, 3 times 2 for the bedrooms plus 1. So if someone's advertising for 10 or 20 people, they're violating the bylaw. So these kinds of things, these platforms track 50 short-term rental sites and make sure that the advertised thing matches the bylaw conditions as best we hope they can. So the cost, we got a quote from Granicus for Stockbridge, and the quote was something like $12,000 or $13,000. And I would like to suggest that we do a pilot using, my preference would be to use free cash for a pilot that we put on the warrant because it's a new thing. So I want town meeting to be able to talk about it. We use free cash to fund it. And we basically do a 1-year contract with either GoGov or Granicus to start to give us better insights into the short-term rental market.
I really don't see the need for it. I think a lot of us we can do on our own. $12,000 is a lot of money.
I think
we're going to gain out of it. I don't. We have really no complaints except for one.
Well, one thing we'll get is hopefully the revenue from all the people who don't pay us now.
And do you know,
But this
go-
with, yeah, I just don't. I think we're good doing it ourselves. I think we'll send letters out or.
Well, sending the letters is a manual process right now that involves the town administrator, who's the highest paid employee here. If we can automate this process, it frees his time up to do other things. And I am strongly recommending that we spend the 12 grand as a pilot for a year. And I think, and I've had this conversation with Jay. I believe, I don't want to speak for Jay, the finance committee can weigh in, but I believe that the finance committee, at least Jay, believes that we should do this as well. But we can put this one off and
put this on the.
All right, so that's the third thing is
and a question,
Out there easier if I have their recommendation.
do we know how much revenue could be captured?
Depends on how often
could
they
be-
rent for part of the year, all year do they, but it has potential to bring in.
I mean, look at the line item, we're going to generate what do we think, $500,000-$600,000 from the occupancy tax this year?
Okay.
So the February numbers were 130. The July numbers are going to easily be over 200. The state website lists the number of for each town, the streets, the number of people registered, and we have 90. So we could, I mean, just in terms of like getting people, it's also really unfair to the people who follow the rules when other people don't follow the rules. For all the people who rent, room in their house and have filed with the DOR, it's tremendously unfair for us to not remind them that they should be, we don't have to take action like file complaints or whatever, but this at least gives us the insight and the ability to automate to the people that the system tells us are actually on online rental sites, to automate the process of reminding them that they've got to be in compliance.
Can we get more information before we make a decision?
I want input from the finance committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to make a decision tonight.
Yeah, okay.
We have a presentation from Granicus that we had. We can forward that to you. You could also, the sales rep guy's name is Kester Bonzu. I can schedule a meeting and you could do the demo. It takes an hour.
Okay.
And that's just one of the platforms. Great Barrington uses GoGov, which is a different platform. And I think, look at it, if we could generate an extra 200,000, bringing people in compliance, that's 200,000 that's not paid by the property tax owners. And I will say it over and over again. The reason we do local services, the reason we raised the tax from 4 to 6% was to reduce the pressure on the property taxpayers in this town. And this is low hanging fruit. But anyways, enough.
No, it's not a bad idea. I just want to make sure that it's worth the money we put in.
Yeah.
We won't know that until we do a pilot.
Right.
We should caution about throwing out any numbers at this point, but the idea right now is to do a pilot to understand where actually we are sitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the last thing on the agenda is the Curtisville Bridge, discussion of options. Michael, you want to kind of give us some options?
Let me walk you through. So I've had quite a few discussions with residents up in the area and the rest around the Curtisville Bridge. And it's still the one item that we don't really have a good plan right now of what to do. Sorry. All right. Let me hit so Curtisville Bridge. The Curtisville Bridge.
Michael, 1 second. Can we try to keep this to 10 minutes so that we have?
I'm going to
time
just
to get-
run you through it and then I'll send you and we can talk about this further. So, it's one of the oldest bridge. It's been closed since 2012. I'm just shooting through this slide. 2015, there was a study done and with a grant from Mass Historical, which gives them approval for the next 10 years on proposed work. So that's going to expire in 2025, 26. The study was completed by Foresight and JD Bell Corp consulting engineers, but the work identified was never done. This is the actual archway underneath, and these are pictures from 2012 that shows the arches splitting and coming apart, which is very dangerous for the entire structure. During a site visit in 2020 was noted that the bridge continued to have difficulties with erosion, the separation of the arch, and the upstream walls have continued to fail. Therefore, the decision was made to remove the utilities from the bridge in case the bridge failed. In 2015, this is the north elevation. You can notice that the wall to the left is still up, and you can see in this picture, that wall has since partially collapsed in the upper section. Also, this is the southern view, and these are some pictures I just recently took, and I was up there with Steve Mack from Foresight Engineering and Mass Historical just to talk to them about the process of trying to possibly lift the restriction to get some work done up there. That you can see that the stones at the bottom have popped out, and that's an indication of erosion behind the wall. When you get the bottom of a wall with all that weight, the stones are popping out at the bottom. You can see here further along that the stones at the bottom have popped, which means the only way to reconstruct these walls is to actually remove the walls and then rebuild them. The options, the status as of today is that the bridge was closed in 2012. It remains closed. The arch continues to separate. We have failures on the upstream walls. The abutments are being undermined and the rail system on the bridge itself is not stable.
All right.
The four options, and this is just to start the discussion. I'll send this to you guys and we'll do further on the 13th. One option is remove the bridge completely, rebuild the wing walls by pour it in place and then set the old stones in them to create the facade of a stone arch wall. And then possible need of bank sheathing. Explore the possibility of using the utility bridge to support a pedestrian bridge. This would be the least expensive. We'd have no estimate at this time. What I am proposing is put $50,000 in engineering, not just for this project, but for other projects from free cash this year so we can get ahead on the engineering.
Was that in the free cash line?
Yes, it was. Option two is the removal of the stone arch bridge. Use the old stones to create a facade while underneath we build a Chapter 85 road bridge. Chapter 85 means it would be able to handle vehicular traffic. We'd protect the banks by rebuilding the wing walls with old stones set in a poured in place concrete walls. This was estimated back in 2016 at about 2.7 million.
And this would allow us to take out that ugly little temporary thing that we put in.
Yes, the utilities will go back under the bridge. And this is what it would look like. They already did the plans on this one. And this is actually what it would look like underneath, where they would create these beams to hold the structure underneath in order to get the weight requirements.
And about how long to repair it with that option? About.
2 construction seasons, most likely. Option 3 would be the removal of the existing stone arch, creating everything that we've talked about. But this would not be building it to the level to support vehicle traffics, but you're looking at 2.3 million. That was a rough estimate. And then the final option is to completely rebuild the bridge using the old stones. And at that time, this was just a ballpark number, was estimated about 6.5 million.
But option 2
Be a pedestrian.
Option 2 looks like the old one, but
We
it's
can-
underneath it, it's.
Yeah, you can
modern.
see in the background how, right, this stuff would all be hidden underneath the
Yeah,
bridge.
so it would
and then
look the same.
facade of the bridge would look the same.
Yeah, okay.
But it
I
wouldn't
already know I'm
be a
gonna go with
historic
option
bridge.
2.
And
Right.
a lot of people felt like option 2 was the best option because there were people from the area, when I showed this to a couple, the people in that area, that, that seemed to be the most
Yeah.
prevalent one. There were quite a few that did like the idea of only being pedestrian.
No.
But yeah.
For $400,000 in savings, I think we just reopen it with the facade.
Right.
It looks the same and it has the benefit of basically having vehicle traffic, which, as Roxanne pointed out last year, would help with public safety.
Yeah. And I will point out that we need to start taking, at least finalize the engineering and come up with a plan to address this because no action is going to result in failure of a stone arch bridge. And I just have.
And then we can't use the stones for the facade or anything. We got to get on this.
Yeah.
You guys have any opinions on which option you like better?
So I think that this was a real quick, I don't think we should.
I want to pull the board. I get it. I want to pull my board.
I
So
like option 2.
Yeah.
what's the cost of option 2?
Option 2 was estimated at 2.7. Now, this is an old
It's
estimate.
gonna be it's gonna be,
Well, during the discussion, it was
pushing
pointed
forward.
out that this is one of the options that could keep the spending down is instead of using the existing old stones would be to just create they would use the cement to set it. Because why this was so expensive in 2016, because that's more expensive than the other Larry Wog Bridge, was the setting of those stones is very labor intensive. So if you wanted to lower the cost, what you do is create the facade with stamping to make it look like.
No.
But,
No.
yeah, just pointing it
That's
out.
weird.
so how long has this bridge been out for?
Since
10 years?
2012,
So
A really
11
long
years.
12
time.
years.
It's a blight though. We got the fencing up there and it's just like we're waiting for it to
Well,
fall into the
I
water.
mean, and there was no issue with traffic going up the side street or anything like that. Nobody's.
Well, there are some complaints about increased vehicular travel on Train Hill Road and that area, yeah. So,
It's also an 1850 bridge that we can maintain the current look of with the current 1850 stones. And I think that's awesome. And it's on.
No, I'm not against it.
I know Mass Historical is not interested in anything doing with that because that is just, they just say that's just fake. Once you remove.
Whatever, they have them give us $6.5 million and
Yeah.
do it their way.
Yeah, no, that's fake too. Because the bridge is gonna have to come down.
I
right
might
now.
have a
So
silly,
either way, it's not.
So an option I'm thinking of is take the bridge out, fix retaining walls, take that other bridge, make it a really nice looking pedestrian bridge. The other side, we take that apart, take the blacktop apart and make a nice park there and have your walking bridge, have your park.
Yeah.
Just fix
That's
that corner a little
possibility
bit.
too.
I'm just saying, if historical is gonna make us go the other way, we're not spending $7 million to fix that bridge.
Well, and I plan on going to historical and getting their opinion on this, and I think we need to do the rest, but we need over this next year to come up with a definitive plan of what to do with this bridge instead of just
Yeah.
ignoring it.
Oh, we can't ignore it.
We can't.
but I think we gotta look at all the options and the cost and,
We did look at them last year, Chuck.
yeah, I know.
We agreed that option 2 was what we're going to do.
Well,
But it
if
is-
historical
we-
says no, then
are we
Say it
obligated?
again, hold on.
what if historical says no?
It's because that they're.
No matter what,
restriction-
their deed restrictions lifting in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's why. By the
Oh,
time we
that's 2 years
start,
out.
they don't get a say.
Yeah, by the time we're ready to do something,
But we have to do all the work to be ready. But in fiscal year 25, which is only 2 years away, we're going to be able to do whatever we
I mean, I
want.
got no option,
Right.
complaints about option 2. I'm just laying some
Yeah.
different options on the table that.
Yeah.
But are we
People are
obligated to fix it or not? We're not obligated to,
No.
right?
No, because we didn't take a construction grant.
Okay.
It was only a 10-year temporary
Okay.
deed restriction on it. Yes.
We need a permit if we want to blow it up.
But yeah, I mean,
There's
but
another building that needs to go.
We have
a party.
much more to follow on this. Much more.
yeah, it's a good open discussion. But yeah, I mean, option 2 is great if, but
All right.
Yeah, but I don't want to.
I like to know that the real-time number, that 2.7 is gonna be, I think, pretty.
We gotta, we need
That's what
engineering
I would
money.
do is I would do all the new updating. I do all
I'll
the.
say it's 2 million more.
But wait,
Say-
money.
hold on, folks. We got money in ARPA, we got money in engineering. I'm wondering if we can get started on the engineering update costs right now. I don't want to wait and fund it to next July 1st and kick a can down into fiscal year 24. I want to basically get
I wouldn't worry
updated the numbers.
I wouldn't worry about that because we need to think about what option. We need to get a lot of other people discussing this. So, yeah.
Okay, it's on the table, it's on the, we're not throwing
We
it,
have to,
we're not throwing.
I'm not worried about gaining a couple months here, Patrick. It's going to take us a whole year to figure out which of these options to move forward with. I just wanted to present
Why
it.
is that?
Why?
Yeah, why is it, gotta get it a couple of years, or a year to get all these options
Michael has
figured
to
out?
go to the other board, or the other committee.
Right, well, let's.
Historical isn't gonna like, historical is gonna hate taking it out, and we're never, and I will
Would you want
not.
me to talk to our?
Can I finish my sentence?
And,
I think.
Guys,
all right,
hold on. All right, we still have a couple of minutes, we have 3 minutes.
Well, we think we're a little late.
yeah, we can start that a couple.
Hello, historical is gonna want us to maintain the look and feel as much as we can. I'm not gonna support spending 6.5 million and take it
God, no.
apart brick by brick. Let me finish. And I'm ready to basically say we should focus on option 2 and not have discussions, endless discussions. I'm not interested in a pedestrian bridge 20 feet down. I'm interested in that beautiful stone bridge, which represents the character of the town being maintained. And by the way, a discussion we are going to have next year as an aside is we need to fund the engineering for the Butler Bridge. That is not in the current budget, and we're not letting that one go till it has to be torn down.
Oh, no.
Which one's Butler?
The Butler, I was planning on using money out of the Butler, out of that 50,000 I'm setting aside to do the assessment on the Butler.
All right.
It will take about a year though, because chapter 85 bridge means it needs to be.
I know,
rated for-
but I don't want to endlessly spin our wheels on 3 different options. I want us
All
to
right.
kind of
No,
decide.
I understand that part.
People understand what the options are, and at least for me, I'm going to go with option 2. Is there any public comment that folks want? Hi, Anita.
Oh, no.
You guys are
Yes.
from the bridge discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Because we have our guests.
Public discussion. Anybody?
Anita Schwerner, Stockbridge. I have public comment I'd like to make that there's been a violation of the town bylaws.
Oh.
Just after Thanksgiving 2022, the paid position of council on aging director was advertised in the Eagle, the Shopper's Guide, and Mass Hire as a part-time, non-benefited position with an hourly range of salary between $20 and $25 per hour based upon experience and certifications. Our town administrator, Michael Canales, was on the selection committee, right, Michael? And reviewed the applications. A red flag should have gone off. And Roxanne McCaffrey's application should have immediately been removed from consideration because she was not eligible to be appointed to any paid position until May 17th, 2023, 1 year after the end of her term as selectman. Her appointment is clearly a violation of Article 3, Section 5, which states a selectman may not hold any other compensatory office or employment in Stockbridge town government during the term for which he is or she is elected, nor hold any compensated appointed town office or employment for 1 year thereafter. So this is where we are now. As of March 1st, Roxanne's in the position. Okay, moving forward, we need to make sure that the bylaw is followed as it was written and approved at the 2019 annual town meeting. Rather than looking for ways around the bylaw, the town administrator and town council should be following our bylaws. Thank you for your time.
Is there any other public comment? All right, hearing none. Do we need to adjourn this meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.